All right, this is not the video I expected to be making, but we're going to be talking about The Boys season, whatever I just watched. I believe it's must be season 5, episode 5. This was a great piece of media. I think I had a really good time watching it. It kind of felt like, I don't know, as we're getting near the end of the conclusion of this show, and I really have no idea. I've watched the show for a couple years. It's always been the most unhinged, most just basically, it's as close as you can get to watching like a comedy special by somebody who will say whatever, um, that you can get while watching regular TV. Well, at least that I've seen. Okay, there might be other shows. Fuck if I know. Politically, it's got this extremely jagged edge, and it goes after everybody. You know what I mean? All the way, like every time. Like I don't even think it doesn't pick sides. Even I feel like it's so vicious in its humor sometimes. And it's a grotesque show. So don't get me wrong. If you get what you're paying for when you sign up and watch this type of show. It's very preachy even sometimes. Like it's a show. It's going to have a political bias, and we'll just leaving all that aside though. This is an interesting look at some of the characters as they're kind of reaching the conclusion. Everybody's going to have a conclusion, I think, and which is very exciting because they all do have different, very different ends. Even though most of them are frankly going to end in death, but they're almost going to end in something but death. But they're mostly going to end in death, and that's the thing about a show like this. You kind of just have to take it for what it is. There is no happy endings. There's no reformations. There's no kumbaya. There's none of that. It's just kind of a whirlwind of what happens next until the ultimate power finally is stopped. That's really what the show is about. It is what would happen to people if you could be possessed by super strength or super ability or whatever. Would you use it for good? We all want to think so. And some people do. There's, of course, there are people with gifts. We could just say this is a big hyperbole of what actually happens in the world. Do people use their access to wealth and money for good? You know what I mean? That's just kind of like the sadness of the situation is like, we really do know what happens when people get ultimate ability. A lot of bad things. And so anyway, this show kind of looks at that. That's probably not why the show was made. I'm sure the guy just wanted to tell a crazy story. Who I don't know exactly who it all is involved in this. I doubt that the original creator of the characters, who knows, had all the intentions that they're being used for now. But anyway, that's the thing about having a piece of art as well. Once it's made, sometimes you lose control over it too, unless you keep I don't know, you never sell it. But me probably couldn't have produce a show like The Boys without surrendering some control. You know what I mean? We're getting off track. We're getting off topic. It's a fun show to watch if you're at all interested in just kind of seeing how things are. If you really like comedians who say offensive shit, because that's what this show basically is. But there's also like this kick-ass superhero fighting stuff going on too, which whatever, I do enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm more interested in the storytelling. I think generally, whenever I watch any sort of a show, I get more into the overall storytelling, not necessarily like, dude, did you see that one kick? I've never really been the guy who's like, that one kick was so sick, dude. He fucked him up. I don't know, but I do like some good action. Don't get me wrong at all. I really love. Recently, Fast and Furious does really good action. The original Fast and Furious. It was fun. Like there's ways to have fun with all types of cinema. We're talking about The Boys here, though. What did this episode really cover? This is going to be a spoiler review. I don't think I've really talked spoilers yet. So that was the spoiler-free portion, I suppose we'll say, more or less. I don't know, to my qualifications. If you're watching the video online, it's really on you to make sure that you don't get spoiled. Sort of. There are some trolly ways to do it. But I don't feel like this will be one of them. So anyway, we'll move on. Anyway, so this is mostly, there's a couple different storylines that it follows through, and it ends in, of course, Homelander. So we'll kind of talk through what I remember. I'm just after I just watched it, I might not talk about every character that you might be interested in if you're watching this for any interest in that type of thing. What did I think about certain things? I'm going to talk about that, but apologies if I don't get to yours. You could always ask if you really wanted to. That would be great, actually. But anyway, so this episode mostly focuses on Homelander, but in the early stages, there's kind of everybody realizes that they're about to basically enter the World War Z moment, the World War III, the universe is over. Providing that Homelander is unkillable and ultimately will just like mass murder, mass genocide everybody on Earth because nobody can stop him. So they pretty much are all coming to grips with their mortality, and including Butcher, who really, this was supposed to be, I think, a moment of redemption prior to departing for, the end, and so that the group can kind of feel like maybe, this was actually worth it all along. Even though we kind of lost our respective ways, we are on the right path, and we're going there together. I think that's like what they're trying to create, right? It's a fun. They do it all the time in cinema, right? Everybody kind of goes through their turmoils, battles their demons. Sometimes people can't actually recover from that before they go in. But, there is a general sense of unity. And it's fun. I mean, I think it's deserved to try and work for something like that. Although that was the part where I was kind of like, is the boys still doing this stuff well anymore? I don't know if they were doing it well all of the time. But I really feel like this was a great episode for me personally watching it. I think that they... they're trying not to fumble it here, I think, is what it was for me. I don't know. But either way, I'm enjoying it. This is nothing but, I really have nothing but love for this show right now. But anyway, so, Huey and there's like a little moment where Frenchie's battling, like, can I love Kimiko? We're not like actually compatible. Like, we're both in an unstable period of our lives, and we've been using each other to get through it. But ultimately, if calm ever can resume in this planet, we're probably not the ones for each other. And he's really battling that. Kimiko, I'm sure, is in her own way. We don't really see much from her side this time. Kimiko's been a super fun character this season. I love that she can talk now. She's the cutest fucking thing. Your voice makes me want to kill myself. I just fucking think she's great. I've been enjoying everything she's been saying like the whole time. And she's like dealt with her trauma too. You know what I mean? Like, Kimiko is healed and Frenchie is not. And that's maybe the incompatibility. Can Frenchie actually be healed? That's the question, right? Frenchie doesn't really think so. Frenchie is the best heroin addict you'll ever know. He loves it. I love some of the earlier stuff. Some of the jokes that they've done with Frenchie have been pretty on point. The fact that he was immune to the other spoilers. Hopefully, if you've seen the previous one, if you'd watched this one. But anyway, in one of the previous ones, like, there was a fungus in the air, and everybody with Frenchie was just getting hateful and wanted to kill everybody around them. And Frenchie was like, "I've done so much rooms that I'm immune. I'm unaffected." And it's just so funny. Like, he's just trying to be like the trip sitter. Everybody's just like getting high as... Anyway, I love that episode too. I've really been enjoying this season a lot. I think The Boys is really, really fun. If any of that sounds interesting and somehow you found your way here, go watch The Boys. It's, provided you are like of age or something. And that you're maybe of like sound mental and political stature. You're not like too easily swayed or one of those, I don't know, social media degenerates who can't never get off of it. Not because I'm definitely not that, if nothing else, even though I'm doing this. But anyway, moving on. So there's that earlier half where like the gang who's going to save the world is kind of healing. We saw a lot from Starlight the last episode, not so much this episode. Hopefully Kimiko and some of these other guys will be, MM is like kind of just like, he's just giving himself to the cause. He don't give a fuck what happens. He's just going to go down. He knows he's probably one of these frontline soldiers who's going to die, and frankly, no, I'm just kidding. He's lasted long enough. No, I'm just joking. That's so fucked up. But that's like that's a joke that any Boys fan would appreciate. Okay. Anyway, we're moving on. So anyway, those guys have basically got it down. Then we look at a few characters. I know we look at Sister Sage, we look at Soldier Boy, and it kind of pivots back to like Homelander off of something he said, and we'll talk about that too. Firecracker's one of the other characters too. So we'll kind of cover those ones now. We'll end with Firecracker. We'll start with. I don't really want to talk too much about like all of the people around Soldier Boy. We'll talk about that briefly. There's like everybody involved, and everybody basically understands that everybody really hates Homelander. And some people are lying. You know what I mean? That's the entire world's perspective. And there might be a couple rednecks who really love him. You know what I mean? But generally, like, Homelander is evil incarnate and must be stopped, must be put down. We all understand that. But nobody can do anything about this guy. So everybody's basically like, do we hold on to our crosses and go down? or do we give in to sin and blaspheme? And that's kind of what everybody's dealing with. Okay, everybody just sucks at this. I mean, what are you supposed to even do? Um, there are some like more devout people. I think like the church pastor guy actually like believes it. And you got Ashley, who's now the president. She's hilarious this season. It's been fucking stupid and funny, and she's always been funny to me. Just like trying to be the one normal person navigate corporate America when it's completely fucked. Absolutely and chaotically fucked. So that's what she's doing. Then we got Sister Sage. Her story is basically like, what would happen if you had like full knowledge of the universe and had to like be a 13-year-old girl or something? Like the tragedy that would be. Well, that's what Sister Sage's whole life is like. And, her talking about her end, I think she's not joking. Her literal dream is that she's incited World War III and she's got the best seats in the house to the fucking, her football game, which will result in her eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. She's going to be, or that's not the right probably way to use that phrase, but she's going to finally have her version of peace. Just reading all this great literature that, if you wanted to, I'm sure she's amassed it all. She just not had a fucking time to sit down and read and do her work. She's too busy dealing with all the bullshit of trying to keep this world afloat so that she can float herself onto cloud nine. She's so funny for that, dude. I fucking respect that. I respect the hustle. I feel like I did a mini version of that myself. That's the dream. Just fucking be able to do whatever you want, for reading, whatever it is. Pretty nice. Anyway, who are we moving on to? I suppose we should really get into the big two, right? Father and son. Big Boss and Solid Snake. But way worse, we got fucking Soldier Boy and Homelander. Mostly they're looking at it from this perspective of Soldier Boy, who really is, I mean, they dig at him pretty hard. That basically he's just a hedonist. He just doesn't really give a fuck about any noble pursuit. He's it's so funny when they actually get to the mansion and he just starts hanging with the other fucking speed racer kind of guy. But anyway, Soldier Boy is basically just a worthless person who was also imbued with power, and all they did was bum around, and whore around, and there's a lot of jokes about what all this Homelander becoming God stuff has impact, how it would impact his life and some of his proclivities, and it's all negative. So he's like, maybe I really should fucking chest burst this guy right fucking now. But, somehow, okay, there's an interesting turn, I feel, from this last episode to this episode. He's kind of a hard character to read. Basically, he just doesn't like that his fucking son is weird. And he's also just like, I don't know, he's like immortal. And he's like kind of still reflecting on all the past traumas too. They kind of, he's got more going on than just, he's a hedonist and that's it. And I think that if you were to look at most people, if you could leverage that against them, there probably is a whole lot more going on, and that this, whatever it is that they're doing there is, some sort of way to cope and relieve stress from that. But anyway, moving on. Not that important. So anyway, he's kind of dealing with all this. Homelander is basically just crazy now. I mean, that was the last episode, right? Where he, there's no reason for him to hold back his absolute insanity. So he is he's unrecoverable. I'm sure that maybe there'll be like one more attempt from father and son. But I think this guy's just going to be fucking off the deep end forever, right? He believes he's God. He wants to be acknowledged as God. If you truly don't believe it, he wants to kill you. That's what he's like now. No matter what. And so he's just gone crazy. And basically, a couple of the superpowered people who maybe could save the world, and the comedians are present now for some reason, because maybe that's what they're trying to do through their art. Who knows, right? And they get into. I love the fucking appearance of the comedians in this episode. It was really fun what they did to them, with them, around them. It was a good time. I think that they really nailed it with all of for me, the comedy of this one was pretty good. Anyway, so basically, the one guy who knows where the V1 is, we're getting back to the real plot here. The V1 is close at hand, and a guy named Bombsight has had it. And because Soldier Boy decides to listen, doesn't like kill his father, now he might actually have the ability to find the location of the V1 himself, so that the two parties can arrive at the peak that is coming, hopefully. Hopefully we'll call it a peak, right? Not a valley. But anyway, when we get there, Either way, now the parties can arrive, right? They're going to find out where the V1s are, and probably a battle will ensue. And somebody will abscond with it, and who knows how it'll end? Who knows, right? I really couldn't predict. They could really do so. This show's so fun because there's so many creative variables. They can really do whatever they want with it. That's what makes it kind of exciting and kind of like, can they stick the landing? It's hard. There's so many shows that feel like we could talk about this thing. Everybody kind of dreads a show ending now, right? Game of Thrones fucking ruined it for everybody else, and I'm just kidding. We're not gonna talk about that. This is meant to be a pretty focused video, but I haven't talked about so many other things that I'm kind of getting fired up. But anyway, let's see if we can pull this home. Anyway, so ultimately somehow they've conspired in their own way, not our main party, but the sub party. These are like the bum superheroes. They just want to fucking party, and they're just like Soldier Boy. They're just like Soldier Boy. They just want to fucking bum it out forever. And anyway, so this speed racer guy is basically the one who knows where it is. He tells him who has it, and he's not lying. I don't know what his intentions were in doing that. Maybe he thought if he could get bomb sight, they could just kill him easier. I don't know. They did this plan. It really hinged on what Soldier Boy did. And anyway, so talking about what happened next is, so he gasses Homelander. He's out. He's vulnerable. Theoretically, Soldier Boy could kill Homelander if he full-blown chest blasted him, in a weakened state. Theoretically, he could die, but I don't know if that's like enough. Like if that was to be the ending, of course, then all the fans would be like, "What the fuck?" So Soldier Boy just chest blasts him when the fucking random pothead knocks him out. Well, that wouldn't be very cool. So I guess understandable. They moved on, right? So now Soldier Boy suddenly he's like, "It's my son, I guess." Father must love son. I don't know. I genuinely don't know what they're fully meaning. He might have some deeper plot, like he really needs the V1 and he needs to interrogate this guy to whether that's true or not. And that's effectively what he does before Homelander, gets up. It's not clear to anybody how long it might take to recover. Maybe that's all Soldier Boy is thinking is, he gets his own little slice of heaven as long as he complies with Jesus, the new God here, right? Maybe that's as vain as it is. He could just be that basic of a character. I think Jaime Lannister's ending, right? It's kind of like, is that his ending? I wouldn't like it. I really don't think I would like it at this point. I feel like Soldier Boy needs a redemption. I feel like just being I don't know. I lean for something better. And there's still plenty of time. There's still 3 more episodes even, I think, right? So anyway, I'm very excited to see how it'll all go. And then let's talk about, I suppose, where we'll kind of end is Firecracker and Homelander. Again, this is a spoiler moment. Firecracker's telling the more spiritual side of the story here. Everything else can be very much like the nitty-gritty, gross corporatization and all that side, whatever you want to call it. But there is a spiritual side. It's like, what if there's something that is going to replace God, right? That's going to replace God. And if you ever do read the Bible, not that I fully, support everything about it or anything like that. Again, I'm not like a Christian believer. But anyway, there's something about having faith, genuinely in what you believe in. This doesn't have to be God, but if you believe something, it will reflect in your life. This is a true reality, right? If you believe in something, it will reflect in your life because a believer moves a certain way. That's the difference. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. If you believe it, you will move a certain way. It will be like you could walk on water. That's what a believer can do. Nobody really believes, though. Not really. It's very hard to. If you have true faith, and it really feels hard to do that. With whether you're doing it, you're giving an answer in an interview question. Do you really believe your answer? How good do you believe in it? How well are you presenting yourself? That's kind of what I'm talking about. Is like, if you truly believed, like, in yourself when you were in those moments, you feel like what you actually are gets amplified by 10 times whenever you truly believe in it that you are doing. But when you don't believe in it, even though you still think that, like, yes, it's good shit. It's great. Like, why can't I just, be confident about it? Even if, even because sometimes it is great, right? So the things that you've done and the things that you do, but you still don't believe in it. And therefore it almost acts like a negative multiplier. Like somehow you get worse and you don't even want to show up. You're so afraid. Anyway, we're getting a little bit, but anyway, that's kind of what Starlight is not Starlight, Firecracker here is going through. Her, right? She's doing all that. And she's struggling with like, can she give up her God? Her God is actually just God. We're making analogies earlier. But if you believe in God and he gives you the faith that what you do in your life is going to work out, that, that you're going to, I don't know, do whatever it is, meet your life's ambition because you're walking with Christ or whatever, right? Whatever your God is. Sometimes, some people just believe in themselves, and that's kind of what I was saying. But, if you do believe in God, it can also be, and you can do both as well. And that can also be very powerful. Having self-confidence and a faith in a higher power that, something is more in this world than just, sitting on the toilet and then dying, right? There's more to it, I think. All those emotions that we feel are not for naught. You forget about them in between. But like, there's something more that you can only glimpse in moments that makes this place just a proving ground almost, I think. I really do. But it's really important that you prove while you're here. I still even believe in that. Like, it should matter what you're doing while you're here too. It's a proving ground, so prove yourself, because once you can really have that faith that what you're doing is ultimately, as long as you can live a good life here, you're ultimately going to have a great reward, and that's kind of what I believe. It's not like a give and take situation either. You know what I mean? I just think we all get to experience everything together again at the end. So you can see all the highs and the lows and you can appreciate them all. There's no shadow without the sunshine, all that jazz, right? Anyway, well, Firecracker really struggles with this in this episode, and she has to go on camera and sell out her, the thing she loves, for basically security, life. She's giving up her morals, her moral virtue to do this. It is not what she believes in. Now, of course, her consequence is very ultimate, so you can't really compare it. It would be very hard to compare it. But at the same time, one of the tenets of a lot of faiths is that, faith is the ultimate thing that you cannot forego, because you can't take that back. I don't believe in any of that for the record. I really think that life is more bigger than that. That if your coin was flipping your whole life and it lands on tails, then you go to hell. And if your coin was flipping your whole life and it lands on heads, you go to Jesus, right? Seems a little bit, fucking stupid to me. That's all. And I think God would be smarter than that. I don't know how else to put it. I think that there's more to it than that. And that we all and we're all going to get a share as well. But it doesn't matter what you do. Let's not, I think it's the suffering that you get when you do that is what's that's the punishment. You know what I mean? I don't know, because I think that your soul really does suffer. At least I hope it does. I suppose, I feel like that's fair. I suppose that would be fair. If you do horrible things and live a great life, then I hope that you're suffering. I think sometimes maybe that's what happens. Who knows? Maybe that's a little fucked up. I don't know. I'm just trying to put some random shit in context. All right. But anyway, so what's funny about that though is if you really believe in that other concept though, that the coin is flipping, so to speak, one day you believe in Jesus, one day you don't. Well, Firecracker's coin flipped over and over. She met with her pastor. She sold him out. She talked to the supreme leader head, the pastor, right? And he doubts her because he apparently is a true believer. And she's actually feeling like she should be adhering to that new ideal of the Church of Homelander, right, bro? What the fuck? No way you can fucking really do it, right? But that coin is flipping. And then, so at the end of, we'll briefly finish up where we left off. Soldier Boy and Homelander basically have formed some sort of father-son relationship, basically. Soldier Boy's like, you know what? For all things considered, you're my kid. More or less, he kind of thinks this internally. But he says to him, I've been fucking your girlfriend and I'm going to stop because I respect you, son. And that actually meant the world to fucking Homelander, by the way. Like, he was so happy when he said, out of respect for you, I'm going to not do something that, I want to do. He was like elated in like a moment. But, then Soldier Boy damns Firecracker to have a confrontation with the Lord here. He says that he wasn't really feeling the pillow talk anyway, and then Firecracker is basically apparently confessing, mid orgasm and everything like that. That basically she doesn't know if she loves Jesus anymore, or that she can't love Homelander the same way she loves Jesus, which is that's what he wants, or she's going to kill her, and everybody on Earth. So that's going to be fun to wrap up, right? Because was he really going to do that? I think was the question everybody had, and to spare you the wait. He kind of rejects her, but she's trying real hard, and this is what I mean. Her coin is flipping. She's like trying to still tell him that she loves him in the way that she, did, and maybe does. She's trying to find out if she still does. I kind of don't think she really ever truly believes it. But her actions, you would say, have to speak louder than words, or even, they must align with her intentions, right? So she's basically saying, like, Soldier Boy, he says, like, get the fuck out, basically, because you don't know if you love me. Get the fuck out. I don't have any tolerance for anything other than perfection. This is the God that I think a lot of people believe in, and I don't really agree with it. The idea that he's like, at the moment, again, your God is not going to kill you, I think, either. But we could probably say that, but it couldn't. Hopefully, it doesn't. I think if your dad asks you to die, I don't know. Maybe we are. It's complicated, I suppose. We're just gonna move on. But anyway, he basically says, "Get out," and then she breaks. She's like, "Soldier," like, I can't know why I keep mixing them up. But Homelander, I love you. Like, I'm the only one who has, and she's gonna. This is the first domino, right? The dominoes have been lining up, but they haven't been falling. This is the first domino that's gonna fall. She says, "Everybody else here is afraid of you, but I really love you." And so he's going to recognize that she's being truthful. Because again, you have to remember, is he has like this weird superhuman ability to read as a lie detector, because he can hear your heartbeat and all your veins contract and squeeze and your blood pressure raise. It's like he's superhuman. You can't hide these sorts of emotions from him. You can kind of mask them very well if you're like super chaotic and psychotic, which I think is like what the Vought CEO is, Stan Edgar, right? So he kind of always hates Stan Edgar, but he also respects him because he's not afraid of him. At least it doesn't appear that he is, But he does have his fears, and so anyway, he gets sold out. So that's why he sells out this person anyway. That's how we have even got there, by the way, which is a pretty neat trick, I think, because he loves his daughter Zoe. Anyway, we're not gonna talk about too much more about anything. We have to wrap this up, I think, dude. I can't be stopped. I don't know what to fucking do. Anyway, so what do I think it means for her to have said that, basically, like, I love you, I still love you, and also her actions also, they speak louder than words. Before she enters the room with him, she throws away her little Jesus doll that she's been carrying. Like, she's a true believer, and she throws that little statue away, and so her coin lands a certain way in this scene, right? You could say that. And then she goes on to basically say the words that will keep her alive, or, in the life that she supposedly is wanting here, which is in the Seven by his side, proclaiming the gospel, right? Being a little Mormon on the block. No, he's saying you're not gonna fucking be part of that. So she doesn't want to leave that. Even she could have just been like, thank God, walked out the door and grabbed that little Jesus doll and went home. And you know what? Her place in heaven would have been secured. Anyway, I don't really believe in that idea of a place in heaven is being secured or unsecured. I think if you were born, you are, part of his kingdom, and we'll all be reunited. But anyway, I think I'm going to end on that rather positive note, because anyway, I think that's an appropriate way to end it for one. That's what I like to. That's how I feel inside, anyway. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. God knows what we're going to talk about.